Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Advance Your Commercial Insurance Sales, um, sponsored by CID Insurance Program. My name is Anae Agostini, and I am going to be your uh, instructor today for this webinar. So let's get started. Well, everybody knows the webinar logistics. If you haven't joined us before, but I'm sure you've done other webinars, you will be on mute, but you will be able to hear, but not speak. But your voice is important to us, so please pose your questions in the chat room at any time throughout the webinar, and I will make sure that I answer it as we go. And then we would definitely like your feedback. So there'll be a short survey that's going to pop up after the webinar, and we appreciate your feedback. So on to the webinar, and let's start with the objectives. So I'd like to, I think this is anyone who's in the insurance world and is trying to write commercial, you're always going to be trying to find the best system for managing your commercial book. And it's a system that can most likely be used for your other lines of business as well. Also, we're going to be talking about the secret to building a stable commercial book. That's pretty important because you want to keep the business on the books. And then last, how to manage commercial renewals and new business effectively, efficiently. And that's a balancing act that needs to be paid attention to. So without further ado, let's get right into the webinar. So the balancing act. Look at your agency or the agency you work in. Where are you top heavy? Most of the time, I see that most agencies are top heavy in personal lines, which is heavy service. So it has its, it has its limitations because it requires a lot more service. It's very personal, more emotional type calls, and so it can dominate and prevent an agency from being able to grow the book of business, or in many cases move into commercial lines and build that book as large as you want it. And my preference would always be because I've done what you guys are doing, would be to have a bigger book of commercial and personal lines, and then life just as an accessory as needed. But it's really up to you. Commercial lines is a very stable book of business, so it gives the opportunity to grow the agency in a stable way. So let's talk about commercial insurance. It's commercial insurance is a challenge, very different than personal lines, because it really is, you're trying, you've got to be sort of a jack of all trades for every type of business out there, and and understand what their insurance needs are. So that takes time to learn. Definitely our underwriters here are definitely, able to assist and help you guide your way through each different type of class of business that you come across for commercial insurance. Also, you really want to pay attention to how you propose commercial insurance. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well as we go along. And then, again, I mentioned the balancing of commercial business and renewals. It can be a challenge, so we'll talk about that as well. But here's a good place to start. Living by a sales equation. So structure and systems in an agency are really the key to making it work and making it work efficiently, where you don't have to have a lot of employees doing a lot of things. If you have good systems, you can usually have less labor and achieve them if you have the right person in place. So let's look at these parts of the sales equation. X dating, presentation. If you add presentation plus close is going to equal a sale, right? It's really a simple equation, but it's very powerful, and each part of this sales equation has to be paid attention to in order and have a system for it, right? A system for it that where you can get all the way down to that sale. And I think this is actually a good one for both new business and renewals. It can apply to both very, very well. And I'll talk about that as we go forward because we're going to break these into parts. Okay, let's talk about the X day. You want to know your weekly sales goals and put your marketing plan into action. Well, you have to have everything running smoothly and have a right team in place for you to be able to effectively go X-date new business, right? You need to get out there and make contact with business owners, network. Things are starting to open back up, so you're going to be able to get out there again and meet potential business owners that you can insure. And then you want to develop and manage a profile for a 10-week marketing schedule. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'm just introducing that concept to you. And then renewals. Review each renewal to ensure adequate coverage. That's the X-date process. Entertain placement with other carriers, and then make contact with your insured. That's a super important part. That's the start of the renewal process. We call that would be called X-dating. The presentation. I can't say enough about the presentation. For new business and renewals, we're basically going to talk about the same thing. You want your underwriter to say yes, and so the guidelines may say no, but you always want to be able to negotiate with your underwriter or present a risk to them that potentially, given without an explanation from you or information that would help them say yes, then it would always be a no. And that's something that we work with all the time. We know that we can change the mind of our underwriter and get them to say yes, but sometimes we need that information from you as the broker in order to be able to present the evidence, the necessary evidence to say why this is a clean risk and why it should be acceptable and be quoted. And then that's going to take knowing your risk profile, knowing your client well enough to know what their exposures are and the things that they are doing right that would cause them to be a good risk for the carrier. And then, as I said, build a storyline, especially if your underwriter is guideline driven. Give him, and as I said, give him a reason to write the business, and then have documentation to support it. And again, if you have any questions as we go. So here's the next part of the presentation. You need to know who your client is, because when you go to do that presentation, you're going to need to decide how you're going to go about making that presentation. And again, these are renewals or new business. You need to make a good impression on them. They need to be able to trust you and not have their ear be pulled away to another broker. That's so retention, and then new business is always competitive. So you need to know your client, and that's really so. You got 4 different personalities here, and I'm not going to go into but it's understanding who you're working with. Is it a Rambo? He's going to want to be in charge, and he's going to need 3 proposals to compare. You're going to have to put 3 on the table, right? Is he analytical? And he questions everything. He needs time to think about it. Or and then so you're going to give him a couple of proposals and with comparisons and a lot of information to analyze, and then make a return call. Give him time to think. Jimmy Fallon, he's indecisive, wants your opinion and what do you think is best, ready to move past the decision. So if he trusts you, right, he'll go with your recommendation. So that requires maybe one or two proposals that will work. And then Kim Kardashian, she's the latest and greatest, has the mentality that if everyone else is buying it, then so should she. So that becomes a whole different kind of presentation in itself. But make the presentation look really good for someone like her. And then let's talk about the presentation from your standpoint. Like, what are the things that you need to do in your office to make sure commercial policies need to be, obviously it's very competitive for new business, so you need to be on your game when you make that presentation. It needs to be professional. And then the same way with a renewal, you only get one, you only touch that policy usually once a year on a commercial. And so that you got that one chance to build another year's worth of renewal out of that insured. So everything needs to be professionally laid out. It needs to be in a proposal, not using the quotes we send you, but using the templates. We have templates for you to adapt and make your own that are on our website. So please go look for those proposal templates and feel free to use them. That's the idea, is to create a proposal template that you can use over and over again for making these presentations. And they need to be nicely presented. And many of them are being emailed now, and then especially due to COVID. So just as long as you make it a nice presentation. You also want to make sure you're disclosing all the right information, such as broker fees, state taxes, inspection charges. If it's auditable, put it on that proposal. If there's any exclusions listed that could impact the insured, put them on the proposal. And then always tell them that the bind is subject to whatever those conditions are. We will give you all that information. It just needs to be transferred onto a nice presentation. And then again, the proposal templates we offer are that include an invoice, and you should always put the premium financing options up on the table right up front for them to, especially if it's an agency bill situation and direct bill is not available. And then obviously you're going to want to let them know that they are there may be signatures required. So it's just really disclosing everything so that it's a clean, you're not going back and forth over and over again. And some people, there will always be those people that you will go back and forth with. But the idea is to set up a system that is going to run as efficiently as possible, and you're going to have the few exceptions that are a problem. So now we got the presentation out there. A lot of people stop at the presentation. So the close becomes super important relative to actually closing the deal. And people miss this part so often. And it's the same thing with, I find that with renewals. When I'm training our renewal underwriters, I'm training them to be the person who follows up and pays attention and takes it all the way to that effective date to make sure that we get it renewed. The same thing with you, because if you don't follow up and close the sale, whether it's new business or renewals, then there's always that chance that you're not going. They're just going to go someplace else because they didn't. You weren't in their. And you don't want to be in their face, but you want them to know that you're there for them and that you're following up to make sure that they don't have any questions, that kind of thing. So making an appointment to see the client is important. You want to be able to address coverage benefits versus premium. You want to know your value-added propositions. What is the value that your proposal brings to the table for them? And then you have to ask for the business. And ideally, obtain the signatures and payment. Get it done in one fell swoop if possible, because we know how busy everybody is, and so you want to grab it while you can, and then it's far less likely to be chaotic. And then securing the bind. That that part of the close is getting them to say yes, but the other part is getting them to send you back the paperwork that you need, the loss runs, the sign forms. So that can be a beast in itself, and that's those subject to bind issues that will need to be addressed, because we won't be able to bind your policy unless we have those things in hand, and so that becomes the next hurdle. So you want to have systems in place so that you're not. And we run a pretty tight ship. We don't usually make too many exceptions for binds, because we find that if we adapt it all over the place, then it's very chaotic, and we're not able to run a system for renewals and new business. And again, you have to process that finance agreement up front, because otherwise you get problems with needing to collect a payment, and it's really important that that all goes together at the same time you bind. And then PIN to ensure the policy is issued and paid. That becomes an important part of finishing either a renewal or new business. And you want to make sure the policy is issued. Generally speaking, when the policy is issued, then you will, on a direct bill basis, you would be paid your commissions thereafter. But you want to make sure you're paid your commission. So I'll show you a way to manage that as we go forward. And then, obviously, proof of insurance to your client and thank them for their business. Okay, so I love this concept. I work by it in my own business. I used to have an agency that did nothing but commercial insurance, but many years ago I went into the wholesale side, and we just transferred all the systems over, and it was very it works beautifully, because it doesn't matter whether you're wholesale or retail. It's the systems are that work for renewals and new business. And so here's a great way. We manage all of our new business by week, and that was by trial and error of learning that when you wait a month to find out how much new business you wrote, you are somewhat late in figuring out how to turn around the ship if you're not doing great on new business. So we went to a weekly. So in our office, we publish production by all of our underwriters weekly, so that as a company, we get to see what we did for that week in production. And that way, if we're having a problem, then we can turn it around or address it as needed. So manage your new business production by week. Slightly different for renewal. You want to manage your renewals by effective date, but in reality, you want to run it by effective date, but you want to run it by month as well. And so you're working, your renewal team would be working, and most of my team will actually print them out and have them on their desk. So, and they could be working, because you're always working in the rears. You're starting on renewals 60 days out, sometimes 90 days out, and then you're working up to the date that they renew, and then you're working forward then. So you could have 3 to 4 months on your desk of renewals that you're working that are ran by effective date that you get to. And I think we've gone to actually, people print them out. Everyone's doing it in an Excel spreadsheet with color coding for renewed or not renewed. And so that makes it a lot easier for us to manage. And that's, but again, renewals by effective date and by month, and new business production by week. So managing your commercial book, okay? New business, as I mentioned, you need a marketing strategy. You have to churn up energy. You have to churn. You could have a telemarketer that there's those services that provide you, and pick. Don't go general, but try and pick some class of business that you would feel comfortable with writing. And you want to manage your commercial profile. So as you start to collect X dates, you want to create a profile on them so that when you start to work it, and I'll go into a little bit more, I think on the next slide, then you will have some background to pick up on. And then follow the sales equation, work each part of it because they're all equal in a sense. And in order to get to the sale, you have to do all three parts: your X date, your presentation, and your close. And then set weekly goals for premium and PIF growth, and then you manage how you did for the week with premium. And then increase your fee income with broker fees, and there's you can negotiate with your premium financing company to actually earn a percentage there as well, based on what they're willing to offer. But there are ways to increase your fee income. And renewal business. Like I said before, treat every renewal like new business. It's that one time a year that you get that chance to make an impression on them so that they don't feel like you're neglecting them, or as soon as someone else broker comes in the door, they've forgotten you and they're in love with them. So treat it like new business and make sure that they know that you appreciate their business. You want to manage by report, as I just talked about. And then know your retention and lapse ratios off that report. So what I mean by that is how much business are you losing and how much business are you renewing? You want to get a percentage, and usually, depending on the type of business, the goal is usually to stay around 90% retention. But depending on the class of business, if you're talking contractors or something like that, you might get down to 85%, meaning you're going to lose 15% of your business naturally. And so that's why new business becomes so important, because your book shrinks unless you're working new business and renewals simultaneously. And you can manage that right off of the Excel spreadsheet as you're doing these renewals. If you want any information or some templates on this, please contact me, and I'll be glad to help. Manage policy audits as well. You're going to lose business really easy and really upset your insured if they don't understand the audit process. And obviously on the front side, you really want to manage if it's revenue or payroll driven. You got to get that right on the front side, because the back side is where it really bites you. And then I definitely ask for referrals from both new business and renewal clients. If they're happy with you, ask for a referral. A lot of our business comes from our brokers that come to us are being referred by other brokers. And managing your commercial book. So let's talk about service. This is a concept, hiring an assistant or, a position. You want to duplicate yourself when you're building your agency. Everyone is part of the sales equation. Don't make them over there just doing one thing. Everyone needs to be able to create the environment for business to come towards you and policies to renew. Work smart, as I've been talking. You want to create systems forms and templates, which we have a lot of them on our website. So take a look under the broker tools section. And then time management sheets work really well when you're training a new employee, so that you make sure that they're balancing their time, because they're in the learning stage at that point, and you could have someone that's been working for you that still needs some help with time management. So that becomes an important thing. Use good judgment and problem solving skills, right? That's a no-brainer, but not always an easy one. But you could get really good at that. And then prevent cancellations. You have to have a payment follow-up system in place. There's the worst thing that can happen is for a policy to cancel, and you could have had some ability to keep the policy in force by having a payment follow-up system. Again, we have a system we use in our office. If anybody has any questions, we can get you some information on that. And again, with service, you want to cross-sell. So whether it's at renewal time or, and obviously new business, you want to get all the policies necessary proposed. But it is also, important to cross-sell, because you have a duty as the insurance broker to make sure that you've offered them all the coverages that they need. So but it's a perfect time, anytime you're talking to them, to make sure, or email them one of our marketing pieces with your information on it, that of coverage that you think they need to have. So opportunity exists there. So I think we are at the tail end. Here's you're looking at our website. So we would love to do business with you, for those that have not done business with us previously. And our website is a great resource of a lot of great tools, ways that we are trying to help you. We have recorded webinars on the website that you can go and watch anytime, have anyone else in your office watch. This one will get posted there as well. And then again, we have the marketing tools and templates. So lots of things to help you with. That's one of our claim to fame, is that we know if you have the tools you need to write commercial business, then we will win along with you. And that's what's most important to us. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today, and look forward to doing some business with you, or those that are brokers now. Thank you for your business. All right, and look forward to doing more. Everyone, have a great day.